Coming up on today's Cowboys Report, could Miles Sanders be the Cowboys' starting running back come week one? We'll discuss the idea of a Jake Ferguson contract extension, and a former Cowboys coach has suggested that maybe Dallas just has to end up trading away Mazi Smith. We'll break down all three of those stories for you on today's Cowboys Report. Before we dive into it, we've had videos every day, multiple times per day here, even in the doldrums of June and July. Hit that sub button so you get even more free Dallas Cowboys YouTube videos. The goal is to win among all the different NFC East teams. Gaining some ground. We're about to catch the Commanders. Eagles has the advantage. We're a little bit past halfway through the month. Help us get there. Hit that sub button and you get free Cowboys videos every single day. Tommy Yarish of Cowboys.com, one of the beat writers there, predicted that Miles Sanders will start at running back come week one for the Dallas Cowboys. And it's worth mentioning, Sanders, by all accounts from the media who was there, looked solid in OTAs and minicamp. It looked explosive, made some decent plays. However, I would caution on this. Shoddy himself said, don't read too much into it. It's OTAs, it's minicamp. The pads aren't on yet. And that matters a lot for running backs because if you just go down the first time you get hit, you're not going to be a productive back in the NFL. But Sanders did work some with the first team. And that actually is pretty notable. That is worth mentioning that he was working ahead of Jaden Blue on a pretty consistent basis. That dude's fun. Ahead of Phil Maffa. In theory, Sanders' style does mesh well with no pads. That if he can show he's still got the juice, which has been a concern that he just doesn't have enough of it anymore to overcome some vision issues and not running behind the Eagles' best offensive line in football. But the Cowboys would like to get something from this group. They have to. Sanders has a chance to be the lead back, to showcase the guy in Philly is still in there somewhere, that Carolina just didn't work for whatever reason. And there's room for opportunity. Javonte Williams is an unknown at this point. Jaden Blue certainly is. Deuce Vaughn is. Phil Maffa is. There's a lot of question marks in that backfield. There's the possibility of a committee, a possibility one guy does have a bounce-back year and, to an extent, saves his career. Because if Javonte and or Miles Sanders really struggle, that might be it for them. So predictions. Will Miles Sanders end up winning the starting job? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know at the pinned comment of today's show. Let's move to Jake Ferguson. Blogging the Boys suggested the Cowboys, they should sign him to an extension. And this, once you get past Micah and Deron Bland, there's a lot of guys you have to figure out what you're going to do with long term. There were four main reasons why for this. First, which was Jake Ferguson has skills, which kind of comes down to he's a good player. He's someone you want to pay because he's able to do more than just the guy stuff at tight end. I think the best element to mention for this is that Fergie is actually good at making guys miss. Per PFF, forced missed tackles, he has been the league leader over the past 2 years combined in that specific stat. Nobody has forced more missed tackles than Jake Ferguson has. He was tied for first in 2024 with 15, just behind David Njoku in 2023 when he was tied for second. Njoku wasn't as good in 2024. Tucker Kraft was not as good in 2023. He is actually good at making guys miss. This is not Zach Ertz in terms of what he does after the catch. Next argument, why for Ferguson? Is the lack of other options, which on the roster right now, I think is valid. Luke Schoonmaker was not good enough so far for the first 2 years of his career. It hasn't been productive. Brevin Spann-Ford, I am intrigued by, but I'm talking about 8 career catches. Is that really a trustworthy element to what you have at tight end? So what you have on the roster? No, it's not exactly a bunch of big options, especially for a team that, as we've seen time and time again, just doesn't like being involved in the free agency element. So he has skills. There is a lack of other options. The third reason, he's poised for a big season. I hope this is the case. I think it's worth having the conversation on it, though. I don't think anyone out there, sound of mind, would say Jake Ferguson played great in 2024. He didn't. He took a step back. He was a bit nicked up. He didn't have Dak Prescott for a big portion of the season. Also is worth mentioning, if you're so reliant on the quarterback, are you actually worth paying on an individual level? Because are you just a product of your environment, or are you elevating it? So I hope he has a big season. I hope that's the case. Didn't have one last year. He took a step back. That's worth mentioning. What's also valid is the tight end market is on the rise, and that's true for almost every position. Running back has kind of stagnated a little bit, but at least had some growth there. George Kittle, Trey McBride, the two highest paid tight ends in football at $19 million per year. And then there's some gapping going on. Travis Kelce down to the Mark Andrews range. But even Dalton Schultz got $12 million per year. In fact, 15 different tight ends in football make at least $10 million per year. At minimum, if you're Jake Ferguson, you have that bounce back season, you're going to be commanding $12, $13, $14 million. Just that's what the market says. And we're about to have some changes there. Travis Kelce is a free agent as he nears the end of his career. Mark Andrews, not the same guy he was, but he's still a contributable player. Dallas Goedert is among the $10 million players. David Njoku. Isaiah Likely will probably get paid a 12 or 14, somewhere in that ballpark, $1 million per year figure. Jake Ferguson is going to be a free agent. Cade Otton, everyone loves Kyle Pitts. But there's question marks on this. So what would you do with Jake Ferguson? Would you pay him? Type P for pay. Or would you let him leave? You can type in L for that one. Just one L suffices. The Cowboys have enough to deal with on that front. Let me know in the comments of today's show. I think a Jake Ferguson extension is complicated. It's not cut and dry the same way it is for Micah or a Lamb or even a Brandon Aubrey or a Tyler Smith. I think he's a good player. I do think that. I think he fits well with Dak Prescott. I question how much of that is actually Dak elevating a guy like Jake Ferguson, as we saw was not the case with Cooper Rush in there. But he's coming off a down year, and that should give you pause. He is not my top free agent priority. He's not even close to it. I got to pay Tyler Smith, fifth-year option, but still. DaRon Bland, George Pickens are going to be free agents after this year ends. So does that fit the Cowboys' spending ways? The middle class is going to get squeezed when you have high-paid players, which the Cowboys are now. Once again, they kind of got away from that for a little bit last year. They didn't have that many. Now they're adding more and more here. The middle class gets squeezed. You saw Jordan Lewis get squeezed out. Can I replace Jake Ferguson like I was able to replace Dalton Schultz? Or is Fergie maybe the guy that would take a team-friendly deal? He said all the right things about the star on the helmet and the privilege to play for the Cowboys. Maybe that one does get a little bit of intrigue, and it ends up benefiting the Cowboys, and he's more inclined to say, yes, I will go about this path. Folks, this Dallas Cowboys hoodie is still on sale for you. It was $55. Now it is $33. We will make sure that link is in the comments section and in the description for you of today's show. Specifically, that link will be in the second paragraph of the description, and it will be in the comments. It'll be also a reply to the pinned comment of the video as well. So go get yours today. Again, links in that second paragraph and in the description, and the copy as well. Was $55, now it is $33. Let's move to Mazi Smith here. So Greg Ellis was the assistant defensive line coach last year under Mike Zimmer. Now, he spoke with DLLS Sports about Mazi Smith, and he specifically mentioned trade as a possibility for the soon-to-be hopefully better defensive lineman after we've seen some inconsistencies / just kind of outright bad play from Mazi Smith in recent memory. I do want to make sure we lay out the full quote from Greg Ellis because sometimes that doesn't come through on social media. Greg said, quote, "The year before we got there, it was a more vertical, get up the field, not really Mazi's game, to be honest with you. I think he played better last year in Zim's scheme. Kind of showed why the Cowboys did draft him, what they saw. Now we're switching up again, and from my understanding, it's more vertical charge. Hopefully they factored into something into the equation to allow Mazi's superhero ability to flash. If not, you may need to just trade him." Now, on one hand, I do want to point out this is a little bit self-serving for the previous staff. Like, oh, well, we got better play out of him. We'll see if the next staff does. If so, it was not our fault. I do not view this, though, as a you got to trade him now statement. It's not how I interpret it. I interpret it as a, look, if it doesn't work in 2025, if Mazi Smith struggles and it just doesn't show the growth, it might be time. And I think that's fair. I think it is very fair to have that mindset. I have that mindset with Mazi Smith. You have to have him on your roster right now. You don't have enough there. At nose guard, that's a whole different issue we'll have in a second. But if it does not work, you got to question if it's ever going to. So what is your confidence level then in Mazi Smith? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1, the low end, 10 on the high end. Let me know in the comments of this video. Trading Mazi Smith right now just makes zero sense for the Cowboys. And that wasn't the approach I think Greg Ellis took. It was more of a 2026 conversation. They don't have the options. They don't save the money. You could, if someone's like, you could cut him. Like, yeah, okay, no, you lose $2.5 million. That's not going to be in play at all. The trade is a little bit better, but you're still like saving a net zero. And you don't have bodies behind him. Going to rely on Jay Toya, a 7th round pick, and going to bring back Linval Joseph? Come on, let's be serious here. Defensive tackles in general can take longer to develop. We've seen that time and time again. You saw it some with Osa Odigizua. But the clock is ticking. You can't have infinite amount of time to develop and show growth. You have to at least show promise. And if Mazi Smith this upcoming season does not show that growth, it might be time. It might be time to look into a different direction and explore alternatives there. He's finally had a healthy, normal offseason. He had the shoulder surgery last year, had the rookie year offseason before that. But if he doesn't show growth, I get there's a new coaching staff. That 2026 future becomes really murky. And it's like, you got to have a completely different starting plan. You can't just blame, another new coaching staff. He was in a bad spot. Well, that's on you as an organization. But the player's kind of out of time. So this year is massive, make no mistake about it, for Mazi Smith.